In his first interview since the release of Uttar Pradesh final electoral roll, Chief Electoral Officer Navdeep Rinwa speaks to the print about the special intensive revision, the first of its kind exercise in over 2 decades, that pruned the state's voter list from 15.4 crores to 13.39 crores. Welcome, sir. Sir, what was your experience conducting SIR in a state as big as UP with the kind of population and with the kind of nitty gritties that we see based on caste, class, and a lot of socio-economic dynamics that exist in the state of UP? So, what were the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome those challenges?
The most difficult challenge was the scale of the exercise. As you know, Uttar Pradesh is the most populous state of the country, and when we started the SIR, there were about 15.44 crore names on the electoral roll. So we had to print the form for each of the elector and reach that elector, get the form back after getting it signed from him or her, and then after the forms came back to us, we scrutinized the forms and we had to issue notices to about 3.26 crore electors who had not mapped correctly with their names or their parents' name in the earlier electoral roll. So it involved a lot of officials, more than 1,77,000 booth level officers were there, thousands AEROs were there, training all the officials and ensuring that they get everything right, because it being very sensitive and everyone's eyes was on what mistakes are being made, and every mistake is attributed to some design or something.
Hmm.
So there are allegations and counter allegations. So all these made the exercise very challenging, but since we had got some time after Bihar's SIR, so we could get our officials trained. And also I must say that we got full cooperation from the political parties. We got about 5,82,000 booth level agents appointed by these political parties, and there was full cooperation from the public at large.
So, when the draft roll got released and when the roll also released yesterday, the difference is of 84 lakhs. So 84 lakhs were included again. So why were these 84 lakh names excluded in the first place? What was the main reason?
So we cannot say that these 84 lakh, the number which
Hmm.
has got increased from the number that we came across during release of draft electoral roll. More than 91 lakhs names have been added since 6th January
Hmm.
2026. The increase appears to be only 84,000 because many names were also deleted during this period. A lot of Form 7s also came, people got shifted. Many of these 84 lakh or about 91 lakh that people that were added are also first time voters.
Hmm.
So we got an increase in the number of voters which are in the age cohort of 18 years, 19 years, is about 13, 14 lakhs. So that means they were never there in the electoral roll. Similarly, there are many people who have come to Uttar Pradesh since last 1 2 years. So their names have also been added, and also there are people who are there in Uttar Pradesh, residing in Uttar Pradesh, but since they had changed their place of residence, so enumeration forms went to their earlier places of
Hmm.
residence. They could not fill up the form, so now they got form 6 filled up, and they have got a name in the electoral roll at the right place where they're residing now.
So I think one of the biggest confusions in this phase of SIR, and because it's different from the Bihar phase, is the logical discrepancy. So a lot of people had complaints that our parents, we are six children, so it has been flagged as logical discrepancy, that how can one parent have six children, or the age difference between parents and children. So what is logical discrepancy in the first place, because there's a lot of confusion in the mind of people, and what kind of logical discrepancies did you come across in UP and how did you resolve those?
So I would just like to clarify that when we talk about logical discrepancy, it is these are about those electors who uh, filled up their enumeration forms. For example, in UP, we had about 12 crore 55 lakh, more than 12 crore 55 lakh names uh, on the draft electoral roll on 6th January 2026. Out of these 12.55 crore people, 3.26 were given notices, and they were of two kind. About 1 crore 4 lakh names were such that they had filled up their enumeration forms, but they did not map with the electoral roll of last SIR of UP. So they were given notices. Now, the second category which you are mentioning is about those electors who had filled up form, but there were logical discrepancies in the sense that if a person has indicated someone as his father
Hmm.
and mapped with that person in the electoral roll of last SIR. Now, it came to our knowledge that the name of the person which has been mapped as father is different in the last electoral roll than the one which is there in the present electoral roll. So there is a name mismatch.
Hmm.
It could be a real name mismatch or it could be a spelling mistake also. Similarly, if it was found out that the age difference between father and the boy or the son or girl is less than 15 years, so this is normally not logical. So that's why these entries were isolated and notices were issued, and people got their documents, and it was made clear that the error is due to some clerical mistake or some misprint, not because actually the mapping is not correct. And that is why, after the whole exercise has been completed, after the notices have been served and replies received, only 3 lakh 50,000 names have been deleted out of 3.26 crores. That is less than 2%.
Sir, but UP has a big issue of out migration. So we see a lot of people who are working outside, but they still vote in UP. So you must have faced a problem, and there were also a lot of questions raised in the middle as well, that how are these people supposed to come back, especially just for getting their names enrolled. So I think there was also a special provision that was made in the middle, saying that they can ask their family members to go to the BLOs and get their names enrolled. So can you elaborate on that? What kind of course correction was required to solve this problem?
Yes. From the beginning itself, when this exercise started, when the enumeration forms were distributed to individual electors whose names were there on 27th October 2025, when the exercise started in Uttar Pradesh, it was made clear during the instructions that not only the elector but any adult member of the house can sign the enumeration form on behalf of the elector. So if an elector was not there during that enumeration phase, so it was not necessary for him or her to be present during the enumeration phase. Now, second time when the presence was required was when the enumeration forms came back and notices were issued to two kind of people: those who had filled up enumeration forms but not mapped with the early electoral roll, those who had filled up form but mapped incorrectly and there were logical discrepancies. So when these notices were issued, at that time also a provision was made that an elector can choose to assign someone, not necessarily any family member, but anyone in writing to be his or her
Hmm.
representative, and the representative could give the necessary documents. So presence was not required in that sense. And also there are two type of migrants: people who reside outside UP, maybe in Delhi or Mumbai, and they're working there. By rules, they are required to register in those places as electors because they are normally residing there. So that is the rule. But there are some seasonal migrants. For those kind of migrants, they retain their vote, and they can retain, as per law, their vote in the original place of residence from their migrating for seasonal occupations.
So I think the biggest question out of this exercise, and since the final rule has also been published, is that why did UP not face the same issues that have been faced by West Bengal? Because UP has a magnanimous population, has migration issues, has again a lot of socioeconomic complexities, and has a strong opposition party hold as well, with Samajwadi Party, Bahujan Samaj Party, a lot of opposition parties. So why did UP not face these issues that West Bengal faced? What were the reasons? Was there any groundwork that you did that perhaps West Bengal did not, or what was the difference?
I think every state has different circumstances. If we compare the work done in the 12 states and UTs, which went to SIR during second
Mm.
phase, starting from 27th October 25, we see differences in the final result of the SIR. At one end, there is Kerala, where the number of voters reduced by only about 3-4%.
Mm.
Then there is at the other end of the spectrum is Gujarat with 13.40 13.40% was the reduction in the number of electors. In UP's case, it was 13.24%. So every state has got different issues and also different history. It may have happened that in some state during last summary revisions of many years, the work may have been done very rigorously, with the result that now the
Mm.
number of deletions is less. So I cannot make a comment about West Bengal, but if we see in other states also, like in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, in fact, Uttar Pradesh took more time than these states. We sought more time. The political parties were asking for more time. We also realized that since the next elections are a year away, we should give more time both to the booth level officers, both to and additional AEROs for hearing, and also it would make the exercise more easy for the public. Also, they will get more time to reply to the notices, with the result that you must have seen in last month or so, there is no news or no negative
Mm.
news about anything happening during SIR in Uttar Pradesh.
Because, yeah, that is what my next question was, that UP did ask for four extensions, which were all conceded by the election commission. So I think that was on your side as well, because I see very few tweets and, other posts about common people tweeting that, our name has been removed. Can you help us? And at one point it was happening, but I think every single district DM page was also responding to them individually that please reach out. We have given your query further. So, did the four extensions help to make a very robust SIR final list then?
In fact, during enumeration phase,
Hmm.
we sought extension once. Initially, the phase was scheduled from 4th November 2025 to 4th December. Then Election Commission of India increased this duration by 1 week for all the states UTs. Then, in case of Uttar Pradesh, we sought 15 days more time. So our enumeration phase ended on 26th of December. And then also during the claims and objections phase, since there was a huge number of people whose names got out of the draft electoral roll, and the number of form 6 that also came during claims and objection was very high in case of Uttar Pradesh. And when the claims and objections period was getting over, so few days before that, the number of forms per day that we were receiving was also very high. In one day, we received about more than 2 lakh form 6. So political parties also requested that since people want to get their names entered into the roll, we should give more times for the claims and objection period. That's why we sought more time, about month's time. And then we sought 1 week extension for the printing of the electoral roll, as we had also done the exercise of rationalization of polling
Hmm.
stations during the exercise. So earlier in Lok Sabha elections, the Maximum number of voters per polling station was 1500. Now, as per ECI's new instructions, no polling station should have more than 1200 voters, which would make the voting easy during the elections. So we got the rationalization done. For that exercise, we sought 1 week's time, extra time.
So, in the middle, there were a lot of reports coming out on BLO deaths because people were saying that they are facing a lot of pressure. There were a few suicide notes also recovered across states where BLO is alleged that, there's a lot of pressure, which is why we've been forced to take this step. So, I talked to a couple of other CEOs as well, and they said that, this came as a big shock to them and they had to course correct in the middle. So did you also you did you also have to do that? What kind of impact did that have on you when these kind of reports came out?
We asked all the district election officers to support the booth level officers, especially in urban areas, because in urban areas it's difficult for the BLO to locate each and every
Hmm.
voter. The reason being, normally the BLO in a village is posted in the village, in that, and village you know about each and every household. You can ask a few people like
Hmm.
village sarpanch or Anganwadi. They can give you the details of family members of all the families. But in urban areas, the BLO was on its own, on his or her own. They had to locate the elector, each and every elector, and then hand over the enumeration form. So we asked the DOs to support the BLOs. In many places, additional employees were assigned as assistant of BLOs to support the BLO. We got trainings also done, and we sought to know about their difficulties. And during this exercise, it was also decided that in genuine cases, we will be liberal with giving leave, or if a request is come to, for the from the BLO because of health reasons or other reasons, family reasons, we also changed the BLO during the exercise.
So one key justification that was given to conduct SIR even by the Election Commission was the issue of illegal immigrants, illegal infiltration. So were there any cases that you found in UP of illegal migrants staying there and getting enrolled in the voter list?
The objective of the exercise, SIR exercise, is to make sure that the electoral rolls are pure.
Hmm.
In the sense, there should be no one who is not eligible and his or her name appears in the electoral roll, and also to get the names of all eligible people in the electoral roll. During SIR exercise, as I mentioned earlier, that enumeration phase, and when we during enumeration phase, most of such people who were not citizens of India, who had come illegally, they chose not to sign the enumeration form and
Hmm.
give it back. That's why the number of absentees which were not found in the field was high in UP. And also during claims and objections, some form 7 came with the reason that the person is not an Indian citizen and their names got deleted. I'll just give an example. In one case in a district, the family registered an FIR with the police that their son and daughter-in-law are missing since many days. And on inquiry, the police found out that the daughter-in-law was from Bangladesh.
Hmm.
And as soon as the enumeration form started going to villages, they got panicky and then they left without informing anyone. And it came to knowledge because of the family's filing of the FIR. There could be many such cases. So this was not our remit to find each individual identify. Our job was to get the electoral roll pure and complete.
Sir, in West Bengal, since the rule has been published, civil society organizations, politicians, they have been alleging that it's mostly been Muslims that have been deleted from the roll. Now, UP also has a 19% population of Muslims, I think. So, what do you and final rule is now out. So, I'm assuming that in the coming days, there will be scrutiny of the UP rolls as well, constituency wise. Do you think that UP will face similar allegations, or do you think that the SIR has been fair to all communities regardless?
So upfront, I will say that SIR exercise in UP has been very transparent, fair, as per rules. And that is why when the draft electoral rule was published, the decrease in number of electors was about 2.88 crore, more than 2.88 crore, about 2.89 crore. Such a huge number. Despite that, there was no major complaint from any region, any community, any caste that they have been singled out or they have been unfair deletion of that community. And these days there are tools available where you can, from the name itself, you can parse whether the person belongs to which religion or not. So there was no study, no report which said about any district of UP, about any assembly constituency of UP, that the deletions have been targeted. And so will be the case after the publishing of our final electoral roll yesterday. And we are very confident because we were also supervising during the SIR about the work of various districts, various assembly constituencies, that in case of UP, if there are allegations, we would be very happy to reply. So we would seek, if there is an allegation, that should be factual so that it can be responded to. And will be, as you mentioned earlier, that when there were complaints, our district election officers, electoral registration officers, my office, we were very quick to respond to any complaint or allegation.
Over 1 crore voters fell into the unmapped category. So, and they were asked to submit self attested documents. How many made it to the final list out of these people, and what was the process? Because, this has been slightly technical to understand for a lot of people. So, you must have also read so many opinion pieces by a lot of people that, what exactly are these categories, new rules that the election commission is coming up with after Bihar SIR. There were rules that were changed midway as well. So what is this process?
So, as I mentioned to you earlier,
Hmm.
that when we got back the enumeration form signed by the elector or his or her family member, adult family member, there were about 12.55 crore such enumeration forms that came back to us. Out of those 12.55 names, 3.26 electors were issued notices, and this 3.26 crore figure is comprised of two separate figures. 1.04 are crore are those people which left their half of their enumeration form empty, where they had to
Hmm.
relate to the earlier electoral roll. They had to map themselves or their parents or their grandparents. And the second category was which mapped, but there were errors, there were logical errors. It seemed as if the mapping was not
Hmm.
correct. In order to ensure that what they have written is correct, it's not they have not wrongly mapped to anyone as their grandparents. So these notices were issued, people submitted documents, and this whole exercise, this gigantic exercise where 3.26 crore voters were each served notice, given time, they submitted their documents, it went off very smoothly. People were very cooperative. And the net result, the final result is that out of these 3.26 crore people, only 3.5 lakh people have been, their names have been deleted from the draft roll, because either they never came to give back the documents, or they did not give the required documents. And these people also have a right to appeal against the decision of the electoral registration officers. We have given ads in the newspaper, all the newspapers, that 15 days time they can appeal to the concerned district magistrate. And if they are not satisfied with the decision of the district magistrate, they can appeal to the chief electoral officers. So they've got two options. So many such people will not be there. Sometimes it happened that a family member has signed the enumeration form of a voter who is residing abroad or who is residing in Mumbai. So now when the notice has been served, So they are not coming to give the documents. So many such cases would be there. There would be very few which would really appeal against the decision. So there has on the ground there is no resentment against this whole exercise. If you ask people in the villages, in the streets, about whether this exercise is good or no, I'm pretty confident that majority of people will say that this was a good exercise and it has helped the electoral roll get cleaned up.
So, but in UP, there is a problem that a lot of these Dalit and rural belts, they might lack formal paperwork. And the 11 documents that were later, then Supreme Court, of course, also added Aadhaar with a caveat. But were there problems where people did not have these documents, and it could be a possibility that more than 3 lakh voters that you mentioned, they do not have such documents, which is why they couldn't be added to the list. Ha- what happens when they lack such paperwork? What did you do?
In fact, the ERO can, it's the right of the ERO to take a decision. So, if a ERO feels that there is a person who is a citizen of India, who is more than 18 years of age, residing in Uttar Pradesh, so ERO can choose to retain the name in the electoral roll. And in UP or in elsewhere in the country, the people who are in villages or poor people, marginalized people, my experience is that in their case they have all the documents because they have to take benefit from the schemes, and these
Mm.
schemes, all these schemes require documents. So they have the documents. It's not a problem in the sense, and without documents also one can be retained in the electoral roll. But I have not seen a single case from any political party about any such person, genuine person, being left out of the electoral roll due to lack of documents.
So the state election commission's role shows 16.1 crore people, which is closer to UP's actual adult population, because the process is much easier with state election commission role. So what explains that 3.5 crore gap, and is there going to be some sort of rationalization of both these roles across the country?
I would first like to say that the electoral rolls for panchayat and urban local bodies and the whole system of preparing them as per constitution are left to two different bodies. For
Hmm.
Lok Sabha and assembly constituencies, Rajya Sabha, it's with the Election Commission of India. And about the figure that you mentioned, 16 crore, actually nobody knows the adult population of Uttar Pradesh. Last census was in
Hmm.
2011. So all these are estimates based on multiple assumptions
Hmm.
which may or may not be true. Before 27th October 2025, our electoral roll also had a figure of 15.44 crore. But if SEC also conducts the exercise in the same way, in a rigorous
Hmm.
way, that each and every voter has to sign, give documents. In the eligibility conditions of panchayat elections, urban local body elections, their electoral roll is different from the
Hmm.
eligibility condition of our electoral roll, which is used for Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha. In our case, the requirement is that a person should normally reside in that place. But in the local bodies election, if a person has a residence owns a residence in a particular place, he or she has a right to get enrolled in that place. So this is a crucial difference. Also, in case of panchayat electoral rolls, they are not required to submit documents for date of birth or proof for place of residence. So it's easy to get inside the
Hmm.
on the electoral roll of a panchayat or urban local body voter list than in case of our electoral roll.
So, do you think then state elector these roles also require an SIR level cleanup?
What I said was that if a similar exercise is
Hmm.
conducted, we'll also see the numbers getting reduced in that electoral also. Before this SIR, we used to conduct summary revisions
Hmm.
every year. So in those years, we did not see the drop so much what we have seen uh, now. And also, if we you see the voting percentage of Uttar Pradesh during last elections, many elections, for example, last Lok Sabha elections 2024, it was just 57%. So we made all sweep, awareness programs and all. In Even after doing that, the voting percent was about 57 or so. But now, after cleaning of the roll, I am pretty sure that the voting percentage in next assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh would be around 70%. So there would be a huge jump of about
Hmm.
10%. That is because the people who are actually there, residing there, who should be there on the electoral roll, are now on the electoral roll. And the denominator, when we calculated the polling percentage, was not correct. It was inflated because of many names which were not residing there, who have died. The names were there. That's why the polling percentage used to, it did not give the correct picture. Now you will get the correct picture.
Sir, two things that the opposition has also alleged is that one, urban pockets have seen greater deletions, Lucknow, Prayagraj, and they are saying that it is because there are migrant pockets, there are pockets of minorities residing there. And second is that women have been disproportionately affected by this exercise because a lot of women lack formal documents, especially in states like UP. So, what do you respond to that?
First of all, I would like to say that in case of urban centers, if you see the polling percentage during elections, we see the polling percentage in urban centers is generally lower than the polling centers in rural areas. Usually, the reason has been attributed to urban apathy for
Hmm.
voting, but that is not the only reason that may be contributing to it. But the main reason is that the movement in urban areas is much faster than in rural areas. People keep shifting their residences, and in urban areas the job of BLO is much difficult than a job of a BLO in rural areas in getting to know about each elector. So that's why people get their name in the electoral roll, that is easy, but getting those names out, someone has to fill up form 7, and then inquiry has to be done. So that's why over the years the urban electoral rolls, they were not being maintained as properly as our rural electoral rolls. And now, because of the design of the SIR, since we had to contact each and every voter, get his or her signature on the enumeration form, the huge deletions have happened. It has not happened because of a particular community residing there or socio-economic background because of the people. It has come up because of the problem of urban electoral rolls being not correct, and this phenomena is there in all the states. If you analyze the
Hmm.
results of other states also, you will find out that in urban centers the deletions would be much more than in rural areas.
So, a month ago, I think Congress Working Committee member Gurdeep Singh Sapil, he had written a big allegation against UP Election Commission, and he said that my name was simply deleted because I shifted from Saibabad to Noida, and he said that there is no provision to retain voters who have changed their address but are still in UP. So, what is the office's position on internal migration? And, what was the response? Were there any course corrections after this, or was there anything required after Sapil's allegation?
No, I would not say that is a big allegation. I would say that in such cases during enumeration phase, uh, there would be many such cases like that you mentioned, that enumeration form went to the the house where the voter was residing earlier, and now the voter was residing in some other locality, maybe in the same city or some other city. So some people filled up their form, enumeration form, from their earlier place of residence, and then they got form 8 filled up for shifting their name from the earlier place of residence to where they were residing now. So some people had done this, they were alert, They had done this due diligence, that they went to their, they contacted the BLO of their
Hmm.
earlier place of residence and asked him to give the form and submitted it after signing it, and then got their names shifted. The other option was that people did not sign the enumeration form, and they had a very easy option of, instead of signing the enumeration form, they could just sign the form 6. There was no difference. Those people who have signed the enumeration form, their name is there in the final electoral roll. Those people who had signed the form 6, their name is there in the electoral roll. There is no difference from the electoral roll that you can make out who has come from enumeration form, who has come from form 6. So this allegation, I think there is no substance in it, because this is the design of these is as per the rules. So whatever has been done as per the rules. So
Hmm.
if there is any issue with the rules, rules could be changed. But so far as in UP is concerned, this has not been a major problem. People who did not fill up the enumeration form, they filled up the form 6.
Sir, Samajwadi Party, I think, gave a lot of memorandas to your office, and Akhilesh Yadav also said that, with the worst affected constituencies have been of Samajwadi stronghold, where there are OBC pockets, Muslim pockets. So, what is your response to such allegations? Because we have also seen parallelly, while there are these allegations, but we see with a lot of opposition parties that they've approached the election commission directly as well. So they have scheduled meetings with CEC and the other election commissioners, but we have not seen that kind of response in the case of UP. So, what do you think is the difference?
So first of all, I would categorically like to say that this allegation that you mentioned,
Hmm.
that strongholds or constituencies of some political parties have been adversely affected, is not true at all. Yesterday we released figures for each district, for each constituency. We released figures of comparison between the pre-SIR electoral roll of that constituency and district and the draft electoral roll, which was published on 6th January, so that people could analyze what happened during the enumeration phase, how many, how what number got reduced, the voter list got reduced by what number. Then we have released the figures of districts and assembly constituency wise, the comparison between draft, that is was published on 6th January, and the final electoral, which was published yesterday on 10th April. People can easily analyze what has happened, how many names have increased during this phase, and you will find out that this allegation is totally false. From the data, one can easily analyze. One knows which constituencies are the stronghold of which parties. One can see the figure of that constituency, the comparison between 27th October, 6th January, and 10th April. So all these allegations would fly away when one looks at the data.
So, since you're talking about data, one of my last questions is that Rahul Gandhi and a lot of other opposition parties have alleged that machine readable format is not available, and it is because election commission doesn't want us or civil society to analyze this data and figure out where the deletions have been or whether they've been unfair or not. And there have also been allegations on and issues that we also saw with West Bengal, that AI generated software wasn't working properly, deduplication wasn't conducted, so those kind of things. So what is your response to these technicalities: machine readability, deduplication, and usage of AI generated softwares?
I would say that our system is the most transparent.
Hmm.
Our electoral rolls of 27 October 2025 are available on the website. The draft electoral rolls are available on the website. Final electoral rolls are available on the website. And I have seen when we publish the draft electoral roll, some news agency got analysis done of the draft roll and came out with numbers like how many women were deleted, and those were done from what we had published only. So there was no separate machine readable or not readable lists given. Whatever was given, people can easily analyze using all the modern
Hmm.
softwares. I saw a news item about a software called What's in a Name,
Hmm.
and they've analyzed about deletions, how many, which percentage, what percent of which community has been diluted. So people can easily, use all these modern techniques, since the data is available. Most important thing is our data is there for, of various phases: earlier voter roll, the pre-SIR roll, the draft roll, the final roll. So if the data is available, one can easily make all kinds of analysis, and if there is any, complaint or allegation, we will be quick to respond.
And so my last question is that on Aadhaar has been the big, issue in the SIR from Supreme Court to the opposition to the Election Commission again and again saying that it's the act says that it's not a proof of citizenship, it's just an identity card. So were there cases in UP where voters just furnished Aadhaar cards and where you had to accept them on the basis of it? Or did you ask for a supplementary document along with Aadhaar card?
So the exercise in UP has been conducted as per Election Commission of India's instructions, as per the list provided by the Election Commission of India, as per the and the Election Commission of India's instructions mention the order of the Honorable Supreme Court, and there has been no complaints from political parties on this account in case of UP.
So that was all on the UPSIR. Thanks a lot for speaking to the print, sir.
Thank you.